Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the issue that seems to be doing the rounds at the moment, that the online dating apps, and there are products that are well known, Tinder and whatever else. There are quite a few of them. And they seem to be going through a pretty tough time. That are publicly listed on the stock market have seen a very substantial decrease in share prices. In some cases, they're between 80 and 95% decrease in shares. So, and the ones that are privately owned are laying off staff and not doing too good from certainly the reporting in the public domain. Now, there seems to be a bit of a surprise. People are asking, well, why is this? Why are these dating apps that were flying high at one point, why are they not doing so good these days? People seem to have lost confidence and faith in them and don't believe in them anymore, think they're a waste of time and so on. So I'll talk about certainly the people that I know that have been using or have used at some point at least dating apps and just recalling their experiences. My wife knows quite a few women who say we're getting divorced at their 40s and so on, and they were hitting the dating apps to find dates. I've had a couple of relatives that were sort of on that dating game, and then there's the younger, say the children who are now say college age or even older, and the parents reporting on or commenting on the experiences of their children using dating apps and in the dating scene generally. And there's a bit of a mix, young men and women. So let's just have a look at that. Now, the thing that sticks out, certainly that, if I sort of aggregate all the reports and all the utterances and comments that I've heard, and sometimes I'm sitting there passively as these women are talking to my wife about it, about how bad the dating apps are. And it seems to be that there's, I guess you could say roughly, and there's crossover here, but men complain that the profiles are fake, that the people that suppose, the hot chicks, if you like, that are on these dating apps, they don't exist. The minute you reach out, they sort of vanish into the ether. And they have, they show on their phone saying, look at this, this chickie, and we're talking, pretty hot chicks, very well turned out, well dressed and so on, and they don't exist in reality. So a guy gets, he looks at 25 chicks, and this guy's decent enough looking, and he picks 25 chicks on the dating app, and they're all of their profiles vanish as soon as he contacts them, or they all say, guess what? I've just met someone, or I've got a lot of work on at the moment, I can't, and so on. But all of them, like he's just picking a rando 25, and yet every single one of them doesn't exist. So it's reasonable to assume, and there have been a few cases where some of these ones that have been involved in, say, some sort of criminal activity, money laundering or whatever, and then it comes out in court that 70% plus of the profiles that they've got online listed are all manufactured. They've just got people out the back writing up profiles of these imaginary, super hot people. But it's guys who will who overwhelmingly want to get onto these apps, particularly where there's a suggestion or implication of casual sort of rando sexual hookup type stuff, and so it's the guys they want to get, and so in order to get the guys as fee-paying customers, then they've got to create all these apps with these supposedly super hot, chicks that are eager for horizontal action. So, but they don't exist; they're all invented. Now, on the other side of it, there are, the women complain not that the hot guys don't exist, or there's a bit of that, but the proportion of fake profiles of hot guys is much less than the fake profiles of non-existent people than they put up for the women. The fake female profiles in order to draw the guys in. But what the women complain about is that the guys are maybe not as accurate in their description of themselves as they should be, or that the women would like. But that photograph of you is of you 10 years ago. But then the women do that as well. But I'm allowed to do it because when the guy sees me, he'll be drawn in by my scintillating personality. So it's okay if I have to tell a few lies to get the situation in place. But certainly the women that I know, and particularly that my wife knows, talking to them, they'll say things like, they met a guy, he looked really good on the profile, but it turns out he's had a bad car accident and his leg's really badly busted up, and so he arrived on crutches, or he's got one of those moon boot type things on his leg, and she'll quite reasonably ask, well, why didn't you tell me that? You can't engage in intimate relations. Well, that's all right. Why don't you just jerk me off, and that'll have to do. And the woman, she's like 40. She's saying, well, you should have told me that. You should have made that clear before we met. And I agree, by the way. I think full disclosure is an issue here. So the women are saying, well, the men are overstating their worth and their value, and how good looking they are, how fit they are, and those sorts of things. And another complaint that a woman made is the guy said he was a high-flying executive on a massive salary, so she had romantic notions of the knight in shining armor on the white horse who's going to take her out to these wickedly expensive restaurants and show her a seriously good time. And when the guy arrives, he says, well, actually, I'm in between jobs and I've been out of work for a few months. I got laid off or this or that, and I'm being really careful with my pennies until I get another job, which is fair enough. But then her argument was, well, you should have told me that. The only reason I'm getting together with you is because I think you got a lot of money that you can spend on me. So there's disingenuous behaviour on all sides here, and I do take a point. The guy should have said that. Not that it was per se material, but nonetheless, again, full disclosure. But then she should have done full disclosure as well. And she didn't, but she seems to think, well, no, it's okay if I don't do full disclosure, but he has to. So there's certainly the idea of talking past each other and the misconceptions and these sorts of things. But effectively, you can't evaluate the product before you buy it online. Now, I've experienced this with things like particularly holiday rentals, vacation rentals on the beachfront. You go get onto the, you want to rent a beach house for a couple of weeks over the summer vacation, and you go onto the websites that handle these sorts of things, and you think, oh, that one looks good. And pretty much every time we my wife and I wouldn't say every time, but close to it, every time we put in we'll take that, then they come back, we've just rented it, just a second ago, I just put the phone down, no, you missed it, but I've got another one that's 300 or 400 meters back from the beach. That one's available if you'd like it. Do you want to have a look at that one? That. And so this sort of, and you can't be that many places that you try and apply for, or try and get, or express interest in, that suddenly at that nanosecond have suddenly been hired or rented by someone else. No, and that's bullshit. Clearly these places don't exist, but they're it's a great draw card. So they use these non-existent places, or maybe the place exists, but it was rented out for the summer holidays long ago. But because it draws in the numbers, they just leave it there. When you say, well, why is the advert still running then if you've rented it? Look, I haven't had time to take it down. I'm so busy. Just haven't had time. And that's a lie as well. So wherever you're in a situation where you can't verify the facts, you have to rely on the people that are delivering the service to you, or in this case, people that are posting profiles and so on, that the information is reliable and accurate and up to date and so on. Now, whether it's CNN News and MSNBC News telling the most outrageous lies, or whether it's they're not curating the news correctly, so it's factual and true. It's the same here with anything that's online where you're unable to verify the accuracy of it, and that the verification process is that you can say, well, look, I've met the person. This is semi-online dating. I've met the person, and I can verify they're exactly as they claim to be, and that all the information I've supplied on their profile is accurate and up to date. And the same could apply for the news, that that information is accurate, or the holiday vacation rental, or jobs. An estimate, I read in an article recently, it's estimated that between 30 and 40% of all jobs listed on job boards, the internet, are fake jobs. They don't exist. And then on top of that, the others that are like just trial balloons that the companies are putting out just to see, well, how many people would apply if this job was real, and so on. So we've got a crisis of in order to make the dating app exciting, they've got to have lots and lots of really hot people, hot chicks. So that's how you get the people in. That's how you get people to sign up. But in order to do that, if you haven't got the hot chicks to be on, you just create fake profiles. People that don't exist, you just put that in. And the same with the holiday rentals, summer vacation rentals, or the same with job boards. You want to make them look exciting. Look at all these jobs, millions of them. But a very sizable portion of the non-existent fake jobs. News that supposedly is going to draw eyeballs, but in fact it's just a manufactured load of bullshit, and so on. So I think we've got a crisis of confidence generally with anything you can't verify. And if you go into, say you go into shop to buy something, there it is. You can verify it, and you can look at it and touch it and feel it. And so that's a verification process that you can't do online. So the thing that replaces the verification is the confidence you have in the medium that you're using to get to the product or the service, or again, rentals or dating apps or whatever it might be. And because that's been so horribly and brutally abused by people, well, what do the people want to see? They want to see a million hot chicks in there. That's it, done, bingo. We just put hot chicks, and that's where ultimately it's fallen down. Even the women who like, I think are pretty good looking, they sort of complain that really the dating apps are a bit of a meat market. People are on it to get laid rather than to find romance, although I'm sure some of them must be. Now, some people I know did this thing called speed dating, where they go to like it's a physical place. So you sit across the table from somebody. I think you get 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes, or it is a short time, and in that time, say there's 10 women, 10 chicks, 10 guys, and they all rotate around, and they just make a list of who you liked, and you've got a short space of time. So looks, for example, and vibes would be really important, but at least the person's there in front of you. You can make a decision as to, well, gee, I really want to, fuck that chick, or something, or vice versa. But you can make that decision that it's there in front of you. Whereas you can't do it, certainly not to that degree in any dating app, or even an Airbnb as an example. The amount of times we've arrived at an Airbnb and find that the description isn't, they've withheld some very key details, which would have been very serious in us determining whether or not we get that Airbnb. And if you're traveling around, you don't have time to you arrive and it's not what's listed as described, then you're very limited in what you can do, and you've got to go to considerable expense. And Airbnb will only refund you 50% of the amount, even if you can prove that you've been seriously lied to and misrepresented in the description. They still won't give you a full refund. So we've arrived at places, and I asked the people, well, why do you do this? Why do you omit such key details? And they just shrug their shoulders and said, well, look, if we put the key details in there, people won't come and rent the room. So we have to do it in order to make the business viable. So the reality is, if they told the truth, their business, as in renting the Airbnb, is non-viable. People just won't rent it. For example, they say like on-site parking. Or secure parking, I think it was. Now, secure parking, I assume, is on the property. They don't specifically state that, but the parking was actually a couple of streets away, and it's not fucking secure. And you say, well, why did you say? Oh, well, we're allowed to. We can say that if we want. If it works for us, if we can dupe the people and we get their money, then that's acceptable. So this attitude is, I think, all pervasive, and I think it's undermined the success, the commercial success of anything where you can't verify and where gradually confidence is completely lost. So the amount of people I know who've just walked away from the dating apps it's just too much hard work. There's so much low quality product you have to work your way through in order to find anything worthwhile. Now, some of these people may have expectations that are way over the top, but nonetheless, it comes back to the material point. Unless you're providing accurate, reliable, dependable information, then why would people want to spend their time? As one lady just recently was talking to my wife, she says, I had to drive 20 miles and do this, and I had to arrange such and such, I had to make arrangements with other people, and I get there and the guy's got to be double the weight he claims to be. He claims to be 190 pounds and fit, and he's 250 pounds and just a blob. So, I've wasted my time. And quite reasonably, by the way, she makes that. But why didn't the guy provide accurate information? And she comments that he said, well, there was a time when he was that weight and he was fit. And if he gets a nice lady, his argument is, or she relays it, if he gets a nice lady to have a relationship with, then he'll have the motivation to focus on being that weight and that level of fitness again. But that's cold comfort for someone who's gone out of their way to meet you with certain expectations that aren't realised. But so these dating apps go away, but what replaces it? Does new product come in? I knew a guy who bought a share in a dating years ago now, and his comment was that the only way to make the business model viable was to tell lots and lots and lots of lies, to just have fake profiles and fake this and bullshit that. That was the only way to make it viable, to dupe people into paying the fees, because there aren't that many good-looking people out there. And the good-looking people will be more likely to, unless they've got serious personality disorders, will be more likely to get dates. So you unless you get people just sort of temporarily sort of coming through the system, or just looking to get casually laid, you're not going to get the hottest people, or it'd be a very small proportion of hot people on the. So you have to invent them in order to get people to come in and have this lure, this carrot that there's all these super hot guys and super hot chicks all wanting dates, when in fact they're all fake profiles. So what would a dating app look like that really caters for ordinary people, where there's very, very few hot people on there? And why do people have expectations when they're only a 4 out of 10 that they should be able to get partners that are 10 out of 10, that in itself. So there are a lot of other factors at play here in terms of how society has developed. But getting an honest, could a dating app even survive or make any money if it was just, hey, there's a lot of ordinary, unattractive people on this dating app, but do you want to join? Maybe that's not a successful business model anyway. Maybe the speed dating model is better. At least you can review the product. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.